Hey folks, back again. This is going to be the conclusion, like I mentioned, of my little review of the Backrooms. Now I'm probably going to repeat myself. By the way, I'm in the truck. I'm an over-the-road truck driver, and if I don't do the review now, I'll fall behind. I am hopelessly behind with all my reviews I want to do for movies that I managed to see in the theater when I was able to have the chance. Anyways, if I don't finish this review now, I might not ever do it. So let's get into the Backrooms for a few minutes. I'm not scripted here. Everything I say is going to be sincere. I'm telling you the truth about how I feel about the movie. But I'm not, I don't have notes except for something I just gleaned off of Google here because I want to read this just for some setup info in just a second. What I mean by I'm not scripted is I'm not organized. I'm just going to spit out everything that I feel about this movie and get it all off my chest. That's the way I like to do my videos. Just let it rip and just say what all I like, what all I don't like about a movie. Anyways, I didn't hate this movie. And that's not the best way to go in talking about a movie, but I just have some serious issues with that ending, and that's really what I'll get to. The third act problems as I see it. But let me start from the beginning, and I'll try and keep this under 10-15 minutes. Let me read this real quick. Just got this off of Google. Backrooms 2026 is a horror film directed by Kane Parsons based on his popular YouTube series and the Backrooms creepypasta starring Chiwetel Ejiofor. I know I'm messing up his name. He played Clark. As a furniture store owner who discovers a dimension of endless liminal spaces with his therapist, Renee Renzer, I'm messing up her name too, venturing in to rescue him. Produced by A24, James Wan, and Sean Levi. The film was released in May 2026 to critical acclaim for its atmosphere and scares, becoming a major box office success. I want to just talk about that just for a second. Something that I learned about that Kane Parsons, that he didn't actually create the original Backrooms, but he popularized it big time with his series. It's like 24 episodes long on YouTube. That was just did so well, and he helped to really supercharge this whole Backrooms thing. Now, I just want to say I really love. I'm intrigued. It's genius to me, the infinite spaces in an office setting, because anything can be in there. Anything that your mind can think up. It's like a blank page, the idea of the Backrooms. And it doesn't all have to be a little bit of creepiness in a video and then you get chased by some monster. Maybe you make it out, maybe you don't. There's just so much that could go with this, and that's where I think the movie, at least this one, kind of dropped the ball. And I think it's kind of a missed opportunity because of the way that third act went. Like I'm going to repeat myself from something I said in my little whatever it is I recorded in between watching the Backrooms at the theater and watching The Furious right after that, when I was in there and I just recorded myself. And I'm probably going to repeat myself, but I want to tell you this story. Right as the Backrooms ended, I looked over at this couple of young guys, maybe 20. I don't know. They're young guys. It was just them in the theater with me and a couple of ladies on the other end over here. And I think that's all of us that were in the theater when I saw this at AMC in Mobile, Alabama. The credits come on. Doing his thing, that music starts up, movie's over. I glance over at this young guy, he's looking at his friend, he says, "That was pretty bad." I heard him say that, and just on a whim, I just picked up my phone and I typed it into Google. The Backrooms is pretty bad. And I started laughing at the result I got. You know how AI wants to word things sometimes with some emotive. You hit the nail on the head. The audiences are split over this movie. I want to talk about this basic Google thing I wrote down here. Critical acclaim. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good or worthwhile movie. It doesn't. But I want to talk about the success because I understand the success. $10 million budget, and it's made 262.6 million dollars globally. That is a runaway success. That's huge. That is huge. That's almost like well, I think that basically is obsession money, because that movie's done so well too, and it's been remarkable to watch these more modest horror flicks do so well, materially, financially successful at the box office. Now, I just wanted to mention that about Kane Parsons because I have watched all of the half hour. Now, you might be saying, "No, David, you said this is an intriguing thing." Yes, it's just that I have so little time to actually watch the stuff. But something about this movie, and particularly the way it ended, I'm going to have to go and watch some of these, maybe his own series, some of the backroom stuff, just because I know there's so much there. I just know it. And anybody can make their own backroom story. It's what's so great about it. And to go to the movies and see a movie called The Backrooms and come out with this, we'll just say, less than satisfied feeling or thought in my head, just, I don't know what to say, except I think it's a missed opportunity what they did with the ending. And this one thing that I'll mention this before I forget it. When I put that into Google, right as the movie ended, I got my phone out and I said, I typed in what the young guy said. Backrooms is pretty bad. Part of like the answer that it will give is part of the gripes people are having is the trauma dump, as it's called. And the thing is, just starting from the beginning of the movie and actually talking about it here for a second, I didn't mind that. Like the first half of the movie, okay, this is kind of a long movie, it's a slow burn, okay, no problem, I'm with you, because I'm interested. Why am I interested? We're getting somewhere, aren't we? And that's the thing. The whole psychiatric bent of Clark and his personal problems and how his wife left him, how he feels unfulfilled, how I really didn't mind all that because, again, it's the back rooms. There's something in there. You don't know what yet. Is it good? Is it bad? It's mysterious. How is it going to play into the lives of our lead? Well, really our two leads, because I consider Dr. Mary a lead almost as much as Clark, even though he's the main focus for most of the film and his ordeal. Just to stop for a second and just talk about what I liked about the film. It wasn't that scary. This Google excerpt talks about acclaim for its atmosphere and scares. There weren't that many scares, if you ask me. There's the creepiness at the beginning, and to me that looked the most like, because it's found footage, that whole style of whoever I guess he's a researcher or scientist. That's how the movie opens. In the back room, somebody is kind of on edge looking around like, is something going to get me? And you realize as he finds the recording equipment I love that it's set in 1990. That is a nice touch, how this got to be VHS, old school camcorder stuff. It adds a richness to this movie, because you can't just, for instance, Clark wants proof later. He can tell that Mary doesn't believe him when he goes in and tries to, in one of their sessions, tell him, I've discovered this endless maze. It's right there in the furniture store. I'm thinking to myself, you could just grab your phone and record some stuff. There are no phones. This is 1990 in this movie. The technology doesn't exist, and yeah, and that adds a layer, a nice story layer to the movie. This is going to be longer than 15 minutes, I can tell, because I got to get all this off my chest about this movie, because even though I have these gripes against the way the movie ended, and I'll get to that, I don't regret seeing the film. I don't want my money back, and nothing like that, because the back rooms itself as such a concept is just so worthwhile to me, just if you ask me. And I think there are so many movies that can be made. I just think that this first major theatrical offering, kind of missed the mark, and it kind of bothers me that this man, Kane Parsons, wrote and directed this. Is like it's kind of a dead end the way the movie ends, and I'll get to that. It's just it's begging to come out of me. Everything that I want to say about this film has to do with the gripes I have about the third act and the way the movie ends. But let me just try and appreciate the first half for a second. These flashbacks that Mary has, again, spoiler alert, I'm going to put that in the beginning. All these flashbacks she has about her mother, the imprints and the wet cement, and how she took that with her. And you would think that at the end of the film, there's some kind of comeuppance, like a full circle, like there's a payoff, in as much as she uses her fragment of that to beat back the monster, knocking its neck, to get the monster off of her at the end. The evil, contorted, giant, murderous alter ego of Clark, the pirate, the commercial for the furniture store that he didn't want to make because he felt it was demeaning and humiliating on some level, even though it's just his job. He's a furniture salesman. He's trying to sell furniture. He lives at the furniture store in a bed in a building that has creepy electrical problems. Now, I can't really talk about this and really appreciate it without immediately getting into the gripes I have about it, because there was no payoff, that, at least that I saw. I only saw the movie once last night, but it's like, what about her mother? What about her unresolved issues of the past? And what? There was no resolution for her. The only kind of closure, if you can call it that, is when she's tied to the chair by Clark at the end, and she says, "I can't save anyone." I thought she was about to say, "I can't even save myself." That would have been a nice touch, because she's tied in the chair, and only when Clark kind of calms down to the point that he releases her does he start to let her go. It's like all these flashbacks she has throughout the film about a construction site, about demolition tractors breaking apart their apartment building. It's like it didn't go anywhere. It fills your mind with questions and mystery, but it's like, okay, her mother basically couldn't let go of their home, couldn't let go of the past, and so she went insane, because you see that scene where she's being wheelchaired away in an obvious mental institution, and there's little girl Mary left alone in the world. So she's got this unresolved stuff. I don't even know what to think about it, because I didn't detect any closure at the end, especially the sorry way the movie ends. And I'll get to that. I'm getting there. But just to appreciate the lead up to it, Clark has problems he doesn't want to admit, but their sessions I think this movie wrote itself into a corner with the whole psychiatric bent. I really do. Because they just went too hard with that. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. How it... When I say they wrote themselves into a corner, it's like there's no resolution because of the way the Backrooms are, because of its nature. It's like it's a black hole, basically. When you see Clark, when at the point of the movie at the end where he's like totally lost his mind, and you're thinking it's because he's been in there for too long or something, and so he's gone stir crazy. Maybe he couldn't find his way back out, even though he had drawn the outline on the door where the portal into the Backrooms was. And when she came to rescue him, there's that tense moment when she's gonna go in. That was a neat effect. The sound effects were really good, like her heart beating and stuff when she went into uh, the back rooms, and then you hear that thump. You haven't seen the full-on murderous specter, the monster, as it were. I thought it was some devil horn thing or some goat-headed, I don't know, some tall, menacing, ultra-violent black cat. I don't know why I thought that, but just when you see the stuff barely come around the corner at the start of the movie with whatever killed, that's the thing. At the start of the movie where that guy gets killed, you don't really see what did it to him. Was it pirate alter ego Clark? How could that be when Clark hadn't gone into the back rooms yet? What killed that guy? There's some inconsistency in the film that also kind of bothers me. It's like, what's with the seagull crashing and dying, but then coming back into life in a jump scare and flying off? It's like, what was that? And why at the end doesn't the alter ego giant murderous Clark pirate specter monster whatever accept what Clark says about, it's okay, this is just the way we're wired? Why does it end that way, with Clark getting picked up like a rag doll and his neck bitten out and him dying horribly, a horrible death, after finding as much closure as he can with all of his problems? Maybe he just can't overcome who he is, how he was belligerent, he got angry when he was drunk, he kind of drove his wife away, he wanted more from life. I am an effing architect, I just have to sell furniture because somebody won't get off her fat effing. It's like you see this speech 2 or 3 times in the movie where it's coming, just pouring out of him, how this is his explanation for why things are. Dr. Mary confronts him head on while she's tied up to the chair, saying, it's you never blame yourself. You never. And she actually gets to him and just blunt, my own life is in danger honesty that she never maybe could have offered him sitting in the comfort of the real world in their session of her air-conditioned office, trying to play, what do you even call it, the therapy exercises of, okay, you be you, rehearse that night, what happened when you accidentally broke the glass, when you came home late from work, because you've got to work all the time and you do drink and that's an issue. All that stuff. It's like, where are we going with this? Why does... I'm choking here. Maybe you can tell me, put it in the comments. Why does the movie end the way that... Because I haven't looked up anybody else's review. I'm just at a loss. Because if the movie... I'm asking, why does the movie end the way it ends? Because if the answer is, well, because it's the effect, the nature of the back rooms, it's just how it ends. That is what happens to people who go into the back rooms. It's like when Clark has basically lost his mind and he's like, you can even eat them, and he starts to cut on the guy who's not really there. He's just the memory, the back room's remembrance of a person, because he's here with optical illusion eyes. He's got optical illusion face. He's got eyes here, here, and here. This guy somewhere out there is a man who is dressed like this, and this woman back here who you thought was maybe an axe killer, the way she's walking all crazy early in the film around the Christmas tree. That particular scene, it's like, what is all this? And the Asian looking man with the contorted face who turns the lamp on and off when he gets excited. It's basically a mind, just a mind journey. My question is why? How do you... The movie tries to have it both ways. It's like, okay, this is what the back rooms does to people, and yet at the same time, when Mary survives the specter at the end, she escapes through the crevice and the drawn out chase scene and getting over. She sprains her ankle on the one room that has sofas everywhere because it's all about furniture, just like the speech where Clark says, "We're just sitting here as..." I need to find that quote. He said, when he says, like furniture, I just remember the last two words of the sentence. I got to find that quote because it's one of the best lines in the movie, explaining what the back rooms is about. I just can't remember the quote right now, but it was a good line in the movie. And the way it kept coming back around to that idea that she had from her own Heal Yourself therapy book that Dr. Mary had written about, we all just take the path of least resistance after we've lived, we tried, but there's just too much pain. We don't want to get hurt again, and so we develop our own loops where we're doing the same thing over and over again and not escaping from the maze that we created. That is good stuff. And when you visualize it in the back rooms, like literally as this, what's the word? Liminal spaces. Very good. That's good stuff. It's just, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I've got the back rooms totally wrong, and that this is just not the wide open, anything is possible in there that I'm thinking, because it's like, if it is just to imagine just a drain where your own worst impulses and hopelessness take over and you basically die. Maybe I just got the back rooms all wrong, you tell me. But the way the movie ended, she escapes, and the whole thing bothered me about her escape. It's like, to get out of the back rooms, you've got to go back through that door that Clark had outlined. He found it, and just so we know exactly what it is, he put a blue marker over it. I hope that's not too loud. The APU unit just kicked on to save my battery. Anyways, she didn't go through it. She managed to get into part of the back rooms that looked a lot like the store, and she escaped from the specter. I'm just going to call it the specter monster. Into the crevice, and all of a sudden there's the guys with the hazmat suits and the sprayer. She's got back rooms, cooties germs on her. Detox her real quick. She's a danger or whatever. That whole thing is like, aren't we still in the back rooms? And when she asked the scientist, who somehow has a camera in one of the rooms where he can see, that doesn't sound good. The AP unit doesn't usually sound that way. I hope it's not broken. Oh dear. Anyways, she escapes, she gets hosed down for a second, and then they have Clark's body who's died, and she's like, oh no, but the guy's like directing her like, no, you're not allowed to acknowledge that or whatever, and they usher her into the room, and the scientist, who somehow has a camera where he can see into one of the rooms, of the back rooms. That whole thing, it's like his speech, the scientist guy at the end, who is like, I don't know exactly what it is, I'm just convinced that throughout time, this is the most important thing of all. It's like, wants to be mysterious, but also as pretentious as all get out at the same time. It's like, what is it? We never really know. And it's the ending. This is the ending. It's bad enough what happened to Clark. Like I said in my little thing I recorded that you see before this part of my video, somebody made a YouTube video like, he deserved better. I'm like, he didn't deserve that fate, is what I'll say. He basically just surrenders to the part of himself that he refuses or can't overcome, but to die that way at the hands of his own. It's like, how do things work in the back rooms in this universe? If you give up, you die. But Mary didn't give up. She wanted to live. She wanted to escape. And just the way the movie ends. And here, let me go ahead and just get to it. Because like I said, the whole psychiatric thing, the trauma dump, and it is the trauma dump, quote unquote, going so heavy with that a lot of people have been turned off by. So long as we get closure, and so long as it's a good movie and it makes sense in the end, I was okay with that. It's like, this is kind of deep, but we're gonna get somewhere with these characters. No, Clark is dead, and so was Mary. And you can argue with me if you want to about this, but it's like, what in the world is this at the end? Because she's dead at the end. I don't care what you say. When she asks the question, where am I now, and what's going to become of me? And when the guy's like all nervous, looking like a government agent or something, looking at him, when he says, that's really not up to me, but just know that anything that we can learn, anything at all more, and it's like, she's going to be like a government guinea pig for whatever this super secret research program is. She's not going to be allowed to leave. And I was thinking to myself, is she going to ask the question, are we still in right now? Are we still in the back rooms? Where am I? What is this place? Because she didn't go she didn't go through the blue tape, the door, back into the real world. She found part of the back rooms that looked exactly like the store, or almost, because there's always little changes. But then it's like the whole door is boarded up and she couldn't get to the outside. It's like the outside is underground, or like a furniture store that's boarded up and abandoned. That's what was neat about this movie, and it adds a creepy, if dead-end, depressing vibe to it. Vibe, that's the thing that people, I've been seeing in what I did read, is like the vibe of the movie seemed to be totally off. And I'll just say this, especially in the third act, because she's dead in the end. She is. You see a few scenes after the final speech when she says to the guy exactly what Clark said to her about how it's like trying to get someone who's never seen a dog to describe what a dog looks like. Get some things right, but they won't get everything right. It's interesting, but it's like, it's such a lame ending. I'm sorry, but it is. It's like, they're not letting her go, Mary. So this is our other lead, as it were, who isn't getting closure from her own issues. And I'll tell you this, it would have been one thing if she had seen her own mother contorted in some whatever fashion like Clark's pirate monster was. If she had encountered that in the back rooms, that would have been something. It just would have been something. It would have been something more. It would have been something more to work with. But as it is, she tried to rescue her patient. She failed. She says she can't rescue anybody. She's trying to get out of this thing with her life, and then she doesn't get out with her life. It's like, what kind of movie is this? Yeah, it's a horror, but it doesn't have to have a downbeat ending. This movie, if it has any kind of ending that you can describe at all, it is a downbeat ending, because at the end of the movie, after you see a few scenes of what the Backrooms does, about how, okay, this is what it was like when your events of your life actually happened in rooms, or even outside, because there's a few neat clips where the whole outside of the neighborhood where they live, and then a scene of the furniture store itself, just inside of an enclosed office space. Very nice. Very, very, very good. That's good stuff. It's like nothing escapes. Nothing escapes, really, the memory, the remembering that is the back rooms. Every structure you were ever in. Which, again, plays into the flashbacks of Mary and her mother, and I guess how she wouldn't leave the place and drove her mother crazy. The tractor letting a whole load of demolition scrap fall on them and kill them. In her mind, it's like you see a few scenes where everything, this is the way it was in the beginning, but then everything's slowly sinking more and more into the ground, into the sands of time, but it's actually just the floor. There were neat effects throughout the film when Clark was first discovering the place about shoes halfway in the floor. That was neat stuff. That was a nice touch. That was good. But it's like, how long are things remembered in the back rooms the way that Clark said? Because after a while, as it shows, as you the viewer are seeing everything just layer by layer, the back rooms, the endless floors, in the end it all just vanishes over time, and all that's left are a few pieces of furniture here and there, which it's like, I don't even know what to say about this. But my biggest gripe, and I'll just say this, has to do with, it's not right what happened to Clark, but then there's also Mary, who you think she survived the nightmare. She, in a horror movie, somebody can live to tell the tale. Not everybody dies. She is dead at the end of the movie, because that last scene, after you see all the back rooms floor by floor, the way things gradually just clear out, and then you're left just with an empty office space, literally. There's a clip of her, it's like 3 or 4 seconds long, this scene, where there she is, just sitting in a chair, and now she's got optical illusion face, just like the other inhabitants, if you can call them that, of the back rooms. Got eyes here, here, and here, just like in those optical illusions you can see on the internet sometimes. Just like, what? I'm looking at it, I'm like, whoa, now she's like that. That means she's not really here anymore. And that's why I say she's dead, because if you're not alive, you're dead. If you're alive, your heart is beating, you're breathing, sentient, you're alive. She's not alive anymore. I'm like, oh my goodness. Because that's the last scene of the movie, and I'm like, that's when the credits start, and I look over at the young guy who starts to look at his buddy and says, that was pretty bad. And I'm like, that's the very end of the movie? The scientists are going to basically use her and cause her to cease to be alive, and they're going to use what existence she has left to study the back rooms a little more. It's like, what in the world is this? And please pardon me for this if you think this is an inappropriate example, but I gotta say this. I was thinking about this last night. Gotta turn this fan on. It's getting hot in here without the fan on. I thought about this, and I thought, you know what? That's I can't escape it. That's exactly how I feel about this ending. Here we go. Please follow me for a second. I thought about the Human Centipede. Now, I have never seen those movies, the Human Centipede movies. They made 1, 2, did they make 3 of them? I don't know. I've never seen those movies. I will most likely never watch those movies. I just can't bring myself to watch a movie called The Human Centipede. Anyways. But when you get curious about something, or you see something online, and especially if YouTube and the algorithm recommends a video to you, you click on it, and then recommends a couple more, and you click on those. This is how this comparison came into my mind. It was either a Google image or maybe a clip on YouTube I saw years ago, where it's like, it's the very last scene of one of those movies, the Human Centipede movie. It's like a prison, and it's like it's the last scene of the movie where the experiment or whatever has come to be, and you see there's like this overhead view shot of the inmates of a prison, and they've been sewn butt and mouth. They've been sewn together. The Human Centipede has formed, or whatever. And it's like, it's an overhead shot of a prison yard, and you hear the sounds of the guys moaning like, oh, it's so awful. And it just 2 or 3 seconds of just this overhead view of the Human Centipede, a bunch of inmates in their jumpsuits sewn together, and you're just thinking, and that's how the movie ends. I'm pretty sure that's the final scene of one of the movies. Again, I haven't watched them. I just watched a couple of clips, and I'm pretty sure that's like the last scene of one of the movies. I don't know if it's the first one or the second one, but here we go. That's what jumped into my mind last night as I was thinking about the last scene of the Backrooms. That's the last scene of the movie. Mary in the back rooms, some room, in a wheelchair no less, with optical illusion face, eyes here, here, and here, because the back rooms are remembering her, as in, she's not here anymore. Mary is dead. This doctor, who was not a vicious person, who was not a bad person, she had her own issues, she tried to help, she failed, but she tried. We were scared for her life, that she was in danger. She tried to help this man, she couldn't do it. She tries to escape with her own life, and she doesn't. This is the last thing we see of her in this movie, and I'm like, and I keep coming back to this because the first half of the movie was, I just thought it was good. It could be, you could redo the whole movie using the first half of the movie. It was a good build-up, in my opinion, even if it was like a slow burn. We're going heavy with the psychiatric stuff, trying to figure out how does this man's problems, how is the Backrooms going to affect how it doesn't. He just has to accept it with that line. This is just how we're wired. And I'm like, and then for that to be the last scene of Mary, Dr. Mary, is like, wow. You might as well have the sounds of those inmates like human centipede. Like, oh, I can barely speak because their mouths are sewn to, anus of some other guy. Playing over the image of her in that wheelchair in the back rooms somewhere in some other dimension with optical illusion face. And it's like, if I didn't like the premise of the movie as much as I did, I would either be depressed or just ticked off. That's how much of a missed opportunity I think this was, and how lame an ending. Even if you leave Clark in that state, why did they do that to Mary? Why couldn't the movie have... Why couldn't it have been better? Why are the scientists soulless entities that don't value human life in the end? Because if they just stuck Mary in there, it's like, or is it ambiguous? Maybe I can give it a shot. Is it like she's not dead, but it's like, okay, you know what, can I retract the whole thing? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's like Clark said, somewhere out there, there's a man, when he dug the guy's foam stomach out, you could even eat them here. Have some. Maybe she's not dead, but that the Backrooms is still remembering her, that she was there. Can I get away with that? Can I get away with that? Should I give the movie that much of a benefit of the doubt? It's difficult because Clark is dead as a hammer. And I wish he hadn't died like that. But what became of Mary? When we know that it's basically alluded to by the scientist dope that she's not going to be released. So, is Mary dead in the end, or is she just being remembered by the Backrooms? You tell me. I look forward to hearing people's thoughts, opinions, and the like about my struggles with this movie, because I don't regret watching it. I just think that a better Backrooms movie can easily be made than this maybe I'm too simple and I don't like things to be too complicated. I'm willing to admit that too. Anyway, look forward to your comments, folks. I've gone almost 40 minutes talking about this. That's insane. I'm sorry it went so long, but yeah, I had to get all this out. I had to get it out of my basement, out of my back rooms, as you might say. Now, all I can say is it was a memorable flick, just like Obsession was very memorable. Won't ever forget it. And the actors and actresses put in a really good performance for what the movie was. I just wish there was more to it. That would be more easily understood than. I'm sorry. I gotta quit. I gotta shut up. Look forward to your comments. You think it was great? You think it was bad? You want to rip it a new one like I feel like I want to sometimes? Whatever. Till next time, folks. Thank you so much for listening to me. Appreciate it. Take care.